China's most chaotic trade showdown has erupted along the Chinese-Russian border. 15,000 trucks are frozen in place, turning the frontier into a giant parking lot of frustration. After Poland and Belarus shut their ports, Kazakhstan launched sweeping inspections on everything passing from China to Russia. At several border gates, tensions boiled over, especially at Samaty, where tens of thousands of Chinese freight trucks piled up. Sensitive cargo, gray channel goods, and seized items included drones, DJI Mavic units, BIN and VMAX devices, tools, and other items considered potentially useful for Russia's military and industry. Videos captured endless lines of trucks stretching for miles, completely swallowing the Kazakhstan-Russia border. Some drivers have not moved for more than 30 days. The China-Russia transit corridor has essentially collapsed, delivery schedules wiped out. Since mid-November 2025, Kazakhstan has tightened checks even further, triggering a full-scale logistics meltdown at its border with Russia. With tens of thousands of tons of Chinese exports stalled, Chinese companies have already lost hundreds of millions of dollars. Kommersant reported that on October 2nd, thousands of Chinese trucks were held under strict customs controls, with inspectors determining whether goods were civilian, dual use, or restricted under Western sanctions, especially their electronics, fiber materials, drones, and related components. 99% of vehicles were checked, and many loads were withheld or confiscated. Alexander Azachian from Russia's YMTRA said that by early October, 2,000 to 3,000 trucks were stranded at the Russia-Kazakhstan boundary. Then on October 10th, a Chinese foreign affairs blogger posted a viral video claiming 15,000 Chinese trucks were stuck. He said the deadlock stemmed from a mix of politics, intensified inspections, and holiday-related border closures. The Samaty port was described as the system's breaking point. The closure of Belarus's border forced massive rerouting into Kazakhstan and Russia. Then, during China's National Day holiday, border procedures were paused before becoming drastically stricter, deepening the chaos. According to current trends, the crisis will not ease soon. In the long run, it may reshape the logistics structure between China, Russia, and the surrounding region. As peak season arrives, freight costs will surge, delays will worsen, and relief may not come until after Christmas, when cargo volume naturally drops. With the Samaty checkpoint essentially shut on the Russia-West trade route, Chinese exporters are panicking. A Russian blogger with a 5K follower account posted, "The Western Wall has collapsed. Everything is stuck in Samaty. Go outside, you'll see the 19-kilometer-long line. Now there is almost nothing left in the markets." When asked when goods arrived, he replied, 2 months ago, still stuck. Nothing moves. It's not just ours. Everything is frozen. Many businesses confirm the same. Orders undelivered, losses mounting, cargo completely jammed. The so-called 19-kilometer warehouse refers to Moscow's Lyublino 19th-kilometer market, an essential hub for distributing 80% of Chinese goods across Russia. Once packed and lively, the center has now turned eerily silent. Russia depends heavily on Chinese imports. China accounts for 42% of all Russian inbound goods, mainly daily consumer items like phones and clothing. One blogger said the economic freeze has become so severe that Russians cannot even buy winter coats. On October 8th, traffic at the 19-kilometer market dropped to only 20 trucks, compared to the usual 150. The flow is down to barely 1/10. "People keep asking where the goods are," a trucker said. "There are none." Both the Western and Eastern China-Russia trade routes are now clogged. The Western route, from Kyrgyz or Alatau through Kazakhstan or Kyrgyzstan, usually takes 9 to 19 days by truck and avoids heavy winter delays. It's ideal for electronics and medical supplies. The Eastern route runs from northeastern China through Tuofanhe or Manzhouli to Vladivostok or Khabarovsk, then by rail toward Moscow. It normally takes 16 to 25 days, but winter pushes it to 25-35 days. With the Western line effectively shut, retailers have shifted to the Eastern route, causing an overload. Many in China's logistics industry say they've never seen such difficulty moving goods. A foreign blogger warned, Ladies and gentlemen, this is the end. Russian logistics is collapsing from both sides. And indeed, on September 24th, the Russian Navy intercepted a Chinese truck carrying 3,000 drones. It wasn't an isolated case, but a clear signal. Inspections along the eastern corridor have now intensified dramatically, with high-tech electronics being seized more than ever. Most Russian distributors are refusing computer parts and other high-value goods. Meanwhile, Kazakhstan has doubled down on truck inspections, heading toward Moscow. This shows negotiations with Russia have gone nowhere. Pressure is rising on both sides, and the system is cracking. China's two main logistical lifelines to Russia are unraveling. The Eastern Railway, once the most stable export channel, has become a hotspot for inspections. Creators on X revealed that the Russian military relies heavily on Chinese electronic components. However, recent enforcement measures have pushed rejection rates above 30%. According to Russian reports, on September 24th, the Navy seized nearly 3,000 unmanned aircraft, 2 fixed-wing drones, 2,672 quadrotor units, and more than 200 accessories. All were disguised as civilian goods. Despite Russia's urgent need for drones in the Ukraine conflict, the harsh inspections come from multiple motives. Local media say Russia may be sending a dual message. First, to claim independence from Chinese imports in front of the West. Second, to warn Chinese exporters not to violate regulations. The Russian Navy has now stepped into the chaos unfolding in Kazakhstan. Cargo stranded at Kazakh checkpoints can no longer turn back to China. Once the trucks enter Kazakhstan or Kyrgyzstan, the only direction left is deeper into the Eurasian Economic Union. Drivers say they have been stuck for more than a month, and many Western brand goods inside the trailers are already spoiled from the long wait. The worsening gridlock between Kazakhstan and Russia is sending shockwaves into China's border ports. If Russia tightens controls or shifts its border manpower, the main China-Russia transit network could face new disruptions. Critical gateways such as Manjuli, Tuofanhe, and Korgos might all fall under pressure. And once the western route becomes unusable, traffic inevitably shifts east, squeezing ports along the China-Mongolia-Russia corridor. Higher costs are unavoidable. Parking fees, accommodation for stranded drivers, truck repairs, insurance risks, and endless delays. Exporters will shoulder the losses, and unreliable delivery times could easily damage China's trade reputation. Logistics insiders say Kazakhstan is enforcing the toughest policies they have ever seen. Anything remotely connected to dual-use technology, drones, DJI Mavic units, batteries, circuit modules, is frozen at the border. Some companies tried rerouting through Mongolia, but the trip is longer, 20–30% more expensive, and no less risky. In effect, essential supplies for Russia's military sector are being choked off. The tension exposes the fragile nature of the China-Russia partnership and reveals the limits of their political alignment. Although Kazakhstan is a member of the Eurasian Economic Union and a CSTO ally, it is clearly worried about EU and US sanctions and no longer wants to be involved in gray zone trade. Publicly, Kazakhstan claims it is simply monitoring transit more closely. But in reality, its actions help the West sever Russia's supply chain. This shift likely aligns with Washington's interests. Kazakhstan recently signed key cooperation agreements with the US, and observers believe hidden clauses could restrict trade flows to Russia. Since the invasion of Ukraine in 2022, the West has unleashed heavy sanctions. Moscow dismissed them as irrational and insisted its economy was unaffected. Yet by 2020, Kazakhstan's tightening measures, harsher sanctions, and the breakdown of China-Russia logistics all point to deepening Russian isolation. At the same time, Poland's decision to seal its border with Belarus caused the China-Europe railway to crash into a standstill. Hundreds of trains were stuck in Belarus, and tens of thousands of containers sat motionless. On September 25th, Poland partially reopened the Mołaszewicze-Brest crossing, allowing minimal traffic to resume. The 13-day shutdown, which ended on September 12th, came with a warning. The border could close again at any moment. This forced more Chinese shipments to detour into Kazakhstan and Russia, adding even more pressure on Samaty and crippling Russia's already fragile supply chain. The entire crisis dates back to the night of September 9th, when Russian drones crossed into Polish airspace. Moscow offered no apology and instead launched its joint Zapad 2025 military drills with Belarus from September 12th to 16th. Poland reacted by shutting the Belarus border for security reasons, instantly disrupting the China-Europe frequent lifeline. Most of these trains, central to Beijing's belt and road strategy, run through Russia and Belarus before entering Poland. In fact, 85–90% of China-Europe rail traffic relies on Poland, with Małaszewicze serving as the EU's main eastern gateway. When China's trains were halted, exports to Europe collapsed. Goods that normally take a week to reach EU markets sat in Belarus for half a month. Polish media suggested the closure was also a political message, accusing China of failing to pressure Russia to stop the war. This shows how the political fallout from the Russia-Ukraine conflict is now directly reshaping Central European trade. Mr. Zhao from the European Institute of Social Sciences noted that since 2011, China-Europe freight trains have been a backbone of China's export system. But with the war worsening European security, tensions are rising. In early September, Russian missiles again entered Polish airspace, prompting a fierce response. Poland's border closures are not just logistical, they are politically charged, and they threaten broader economic cooperation. Mr. Zhao cautioned that the Baltic states could follow the same path, which would be a major blow to China. Countries like Lithuania and Latvia share Poland's hardline stance and are deeply worried about Russian and Belarusian military maneuvers. If the conflict escalates, they may impose strict transit controls through Belarus, potentially shutting down major northern rail corridors. Thank you for watching our program. Your voice helps us grow every day. Don't forget to follow our China updates across all platforms.